What if I told you that the technology deciding whether you get a loan, whether your photo gets filtered, whether a doctor catches your cancer early, was all built by people who, just a few years ago, had absolutely no idea what they were doing? And what if I told you that you, yes, you, watching this right now, can understand this technology too? No PhD, no computer science degree, no years of math classes, just curiosity and the right guide. Today, we are going to break down one of the most powerful books written for people who feel left behind by the AI revolution. A book that says, stop being afraid of deep learning and start using it. Stay until the end, because there's a 7-day action plan waiting for you that could literally change the direction of your career. Let's go. Let me ask you something honest. When you hear the words artificial intelligence or machine learning or neural networks, what goes through your mind? Be honest. For most people, it's one of three things. Either they feel excited but lost, or they feel intimidated and shut out, or they feel like this is for geniuses, not for someone like me. And here's the tragedy. The biggest mistake people make when they try to enter the world of AI is that they believe they have to master every single piece of math and theory before they can start doing anything useful. They spend months reading theory, months watching lectures, and then they give up because they never actually built anything real. This book was written specifically to destroy that pattern. It's for data analysts, business professionals, curious students, software developers, and even complete beginners who want to understand what deep learning actually is and how to use it without drowning in unnecessary complexity. The author's core belief, and this hit me hard when I first understood it, is that you don't need to understand how an airplane engine works to fly from one city to another. You just need to know how to be a good passenger, or better yet, a good pilot who understands the controls. That's exactly what this book teaches you. Okay, let's start with the foundation. What is deep learning, and why does it sound so scary? Here's the honest truth. The name itself creates the confusion. People hear the word deep, and they think it means complicated or advanced, but that's not what it means. Deep actually refers to the layers inside a type of computer system called a neural network. Think of it like a massive, invisible factory with many floors. Raw material goes in on the ground floor, gets processed on each level, and by the time it reaches the top floor, it becomes something useful, something intelligent. Let me give you a real-life example that everyone can understand. Imagine you're teaching a 3-year-old child to recognize a dog. You don't sit down with a textbook and explain what mammals are. You don't describe the molecular structure of fur. You just show the child hundreds of pictures and say, dog, dog, not a dog, dog, over and over again. And slowly the child's brain, through experience and pattern recognition, figures it out. It learns the shape of ears, the texture of fur, the size of the body. It builds its own internal understanding. A deep learning model does almost exactly the same thing. You feed it massive amounts of examples, and it builds its own internal understanding through layers of pattern detection. That's it. That's the magic. It's not magic at all. It's just sophisticated pattern matching. Now here's where it gets interesting, and where most people make a huge mistake. The most common mistake beginners make is thinking that deep learning is one single tool, like a hammer that you pick up and hit every nail with. But deep learning is more like a toolbox. Inside that toolbox, there are different types of tools. Some are better for understanding images, some are better for understanding language, some are better for predicting numbers. Knowing which tool to use for which problem, that's where the real skill lies, and that's exactly what this book builds in you. Here's your practical action step from this section. Tonight, pick one real problem in your life or work, something repetitive, something where you're constantly sorting through data or making predictions. Just one thing. Write it down, because by the end of this video, you'll have a completely different way of looking at that problem. Let me tell you a story. Imagine 2 farmers. Both of them want to grow the most beautiful crops in the village. Both of them buy the same seeds. Both of them have access to the same sunlight and water. But one farmer has rich, fertile, well-prepared soil, and the other has dry, rocky ground. Who do you think grows the better harvest? This is exactly the relationship between deep learning models and data. The model is the seed, the algorithm is the sunlight, but data, good, clean, rich data, is the soil. Without it, nothing grows. Here's what most people in the AI conversation completely miss. They obsess over the model. They talk about which algorithm is smarter, which architecture is more advanced. But the real competitive advantage, in business, in research, in any application, comes down to who has better data. Think about why companies like Google, Amazon, and Facebook are so powerful. It's not just because they hired the smartest engineers. It's because they collected the most data, billions of data points. Every click, every search, every purchase, all of that is soil, rich soil. Now, let me connect this to your life and career. If you work in marketing, you have data: customer behavior, campaign results, conversion rates. If you work in healthcare, you have data: patient records, treatment outcomes, diagnostic results. If you work in finance, you have data: transaction patterns, market movements, risk indicators. The question you should be asking yourself right now is, am I sitting on fertile soil that I've never planted anything in? Because that's the opportunity. Most organizations have oceans of data and absolutely no system to learn from it. And here's the uncomfortable truth about data that most people don't want to hear. Raw data is almost never ready to use. It's messy. It has missing values. It has errors. It has outliers. It's like soil full of rocks and weeds. One of the most underestimated and most important skills in the entire field of deep learning and machine learning is what's called data preparation: cleaning your data, organizing it, making it ready to learn from. The book spends a significant amount of time on this, not because it's glamorous, but because it's real. In the real world, a data scientist spends up to 80% of their time preparing data, not building models, not running algorithms, preparing data. So if you want to be genuinely good at this, fall in love with the process of understanding and cleaning your data. That's where the hidden competitive advantage lives. Okay, now we go a little deeper, but I promise I'm going to make this feel like common sense. Here's a psychological insight that changed how I understood learning, both for humans and for machines. Think about how you learned to ride a bike. The first time you sat on that seat, you fell, you wobbled, you crashed, over and over again. And every single time you fell, your brain noticed what went wrong. Was it the balance? Was it the speed? Was it the turning? And slowly, through hundreds of tiny adjustments, you found the right combination. And one day, it just clicked. You could ride. A deep learning model learns in almost exactly the same way. It makes a prediction, it checks if it was right or wrong, it measures how wrong it was, and then it makes tiny internal adjustments to do better next time. This process of measuring wrongness and adjusting is at the heart of how machines learn. The technical word for measuring wrongness is loss, and the process of making adjustments is called optimization. But forget the technical words for a moment. The real insight here, the psychological truth, is this: learning only happens through feedback. A child who never hears no doesn't learn boundaries. A student who never gets exam results doesn't learn what they're missing. A model that never gets corrected just keeps making the same wrong predictions. Now here's the uncomfortable truth, and this is what separates people who actually grow from people who stay stuck. Most people avoid feedback. They avoid knowing their score. They avoid asking, how did I do? Because they're afraid of the answer. But winners, people who build real skills, real businesses, real intelligence, they hunt for feedback. They want to know exactly where they went wrong, because that information is gold. In deep learning, the models that perform best are the ones that were exposed to the most feedback, the most corrections, the most cycles of learning from their mistakes. The same is true for you. Stop protecting your ego. Start seeking feedback. Every wrong answer your life gives you is a training signal pointing you toward the right path. Here's another uncomfortable truth this book reveals, and most surface-level summaries completely miss this. More data and more computing power does not automatically make a smarter model. In fact, if you train a model too much on the same data, it starts to memorize rather than learn. It becomes what's called overfitted. It performs perfectly on what it's seen before, but fails completely in the real world. Sound familiar? It should. It's like a student who memorizes every answer in the textbook but can't solve a problem they've never seen before. They've overfitted to the exam. They haven't actually learned to think. Real intelligence, in machines and in humans, comes from the ability to generalize, to take what you've learned and apply it to new situations. That's the goal.
This is the section that most summaries skip entirely, and it might be the most important thing in the whole video. We've talked about what deep learning is, we've talked about data, we've talked about how machines learn. But here's the question nobody asks. What can deep learning not do? And why does that matter to you? Here's the truth. Deep learning is extraordinarily powerful, but it is also extraordinarily limited in ways that most people don't understand. A deep learning model can look at 1 million photos of cats and tell you with 99% accuracy whether a new photo contains a cat, but it cannot explain why it thinks so. It has no common sense. It cannot reason from first principles. It cannot tell you what a cat is in any meaningful way. It's pattern matching at massive scale, not understanding. This matters enormously, especially if you're thinking about using AI in your business or career. Here's where people misuse this concept, and this mistake can be catastrophic. People see a model perform incredibly well on test data, and they assume it understands the problem. They trust it completely. They remove human judgment from the loop entirely. And then the model encounters a situation it's never seen before, and it fails spectacularly. This is why autonomous vehicles still aren't driving everywhere. This is why medical AI still needs doctor supervision. Not because the technology is bad, but because intelligence without understanding needs human guardrails. So what's the right way to think about and apply deep learning? Think of it as a supercharged assistant, not a replacement for thinking. The best outcomes in the real world come from combining the pattern recognition power of deep learning with the reasoning, ethics, and contextual judgment of human intelligence. This hybrid approach, human plus machine, is where the real gold is. And here's what that means for your career. The people who will win in the AI era are not the people who are replaced by AI. They're the people who understand AI well enough to direct it, to check it, and to combine it with their human expertise. That's exactly why understanding deep learning at a conceptual level, even without becoming a technical expert, is one of the most valuable things you can do for your career right now. The book is essentially a roadmap to becoming that person, someone who speaks the language, someone who can sit in a room with engineers and ask the right questions, someone who can evaluate an AI solution and know when it's being misused. That person is valuable. That person is, okay, theory is great, but execution is everything. Here is your personal 7-day deep learning awareness plan. You don't need to write a single line of code. You just need to commit 20 to 30 minutes a day. Let's go. Day 1, Awareness Day. Today, your only job is to notice AI around you. Every time you use Netflix, Spotify, Google Maps, or your email spam filter, write it down. You're building awareness of how deep learning is already running your life. Start a simple notebook, digital or paper, and list every AI touchpoint you experience today. Target, find at least 10 examples. Day 2, the day-to-day. Look at your own world through the lens of data. What data does your company collect? What data does your industry have? Write down 3 data sets that exist in your professional world that nobody is really using intelligently. You don't need to analyze them, just identify them. Start seeing soil where others see dirt. Day 3, the problem day. Pick one problem from your work or personal life that involves prediction or classification. Is it predicting which customers will cancel? Classifying emails by priority? Forecasting sales? Diagnosing equipment failures early? Write a 1-paragraph description of the problem. Include what data you have, what output you want, why it matters. This is the foundation of every real AI project. Day 4, the feedback day. Today is a personal growth day. Ask someone you trust, a colleague, a mentor, a friend, for honest feedback on one of your skills or work output. Don't defend yourself, just listen. Write down what they say. This practice of actively seeking correction is the same mechanism that makes machine learning models better. It works for humans too. Day 5, the failure analysis day. Think of one recent failure, mistake, or poor decision in your work. Write down what was the input, the situation, what was your output, the decision, what was the loss, the cost of being wrong, what adjustment should you make next time. You just did a manual version of gradient descent, the core learning algorithm behind deep learning. Day 6, the generalization day. Take one thing you learned this week and apply it to a completely different area of your life. Can you apply the feedback loop idea to your fitness? Can you apply the data preparation idea to how you organize your finances? Generalization, applying knowledge across domains, is the mark of real intelligence. Practice it deliberately. Day 7, the vision day. Write a 1-page answer to this question. If I had access to a deep learning model that could do anything I needed, what problem in my field would I use it to solve? Don't worry about whether it's technically feasible. Dream first. The technical part comes later. But the vision, the problem worth solving, has to come from you. 7 days, 7 habits. Small actions, compounding over time. That's how skills are built. That's how careers are transformed. I want to leave you with one final thought, and I want you to really sit with this. We are living through one of the most remarkable moments in human history. A technology is being built right now that will touch every industry, every career, every human life on the planet. Healthcare, education, agriculture, finance, creative arts, even governance. And most people are watching from the sidelines. They're waiting for someone else to understand it first, waiting until it becomes simpler, waiting until it's too obvious to ignore. But by the time it's obvious, the opportunity will be gone. The seats at the table will already be filled. The gap between people who understand this technology and people who don't is not going to stay the same. It is going to widen every single year. And on one side of that gap, there will be people who built skills, who stayed curious, who didn't let fear of complexity shut them out. On the other side, people who watched and waited. Here's the mindset shift I want you to walk away with today. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to become a machine learning engineer. You don't have to write algorithms from scratch. You just have to be one step more informed than you were yesterday, and then one step more tomorrow, and the next day. That's it. That's the whole game. The book we talked about today was written for people who believe they deserve a seat at the table, not as spectators, but as participants, as builders, as people who shape the future rather than just experience it. Take a moment right now, just 5 seconds, and ask yourself honestly, am I the kind of person who sits on the sidelines when history is being made? I didn't think so. Neither am I. So let's go learn, together. If this video gave you even one new idea, even one new way of seeing the world, then do me one small favor. Hit that like button right now. It takes 2 seconds and it tells me to keep making content like this for you. And if you want more book breakdowns, mindset shifts, and career-changing ideas delivered straight to you, subscribe and ring that bell. You won't miss a single video. Most importantly, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video? Was it the data as soil idea, the feedback loop lesson, the 7-day plan, the mindset shift at the end? Tell me. I read every single comment. Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and remember, the future belongs to the curious. See you in the next one.